Welcome, welcome, my noble artist and talented troupe of theater trolls. This is your host, Dawn Westbrook, and let me say I have missed you. But the good news is, ACT is back. And while many things might have changed since season 1, a lot of things have remained the same. For instance, I'm sitting right here with my glass of wine. And for the next few minutes, I hope you'll join me with a glass of something, because we're going to be talking with some of the best in the business as we focus on the craft of acting, the art of directing, and just embracing the process of this crazy career in the theater and entertainment world. I've got some amazing interviews lined up for you in the coming weeks, and this week is no exception. But first, this season's podcasts are being brought to you by both the Martha Hill Newell Playwrights Fund, whose commitment is to both local and national playwrights and holds the belief that the relevance and vitality of American theater depends on the continual infusion of new works, and Bookcliff Vineyards, whose wines are 100% crafted right here in the beautiful state of Colorado and are always something worth sharing. So today's guest, guys, is a very popular local celebrity here in Denver, Boulder. And I have monikered this lovely celebrity as Dame Billie McBride of Denver. I saw her in February of this year at Betsy, is what they call Boulder Ensemble Theatre Company, BETC. That's slang. I had to learn what that was because I thought they were saying Betsy, B-E-T-S-Y, Betsy as a girl's name, but it's not. It's Betsy, the acronym. And she was in a show, Love Letters, which we've all seen. You could do different variations of this, but she was in the show with a lovely actor. And boy, can I pick him. It was directed by another very popular playwright, director, and actor in this area, Joshua Hartwell, who I'm also interviewing, but because he was also so busy this season, I'm going to interview him in season 3. Anyway, like I said, boy, can I pick him. Because as soon as I came home, I sent her a message on Facebook, and I have found out throughout the course of this year, when she's not on vacation, she's either on stage, directing for one of the stages here in the area, or she's singing or supporting the local theaters here in town. So without further ado, hello, Dame Billie. How are you?
I'm just fine. Talk to you.
It's good to talk to you too. Thanks so much for giving me some of your time. And I'll just also say that because you're so busy, this proves my point. We're not doing this on a Sunday evening at 6. So I'm not drinking because you're working every night, so we had to do this during the day.
Unfortunately, that's true.
Well, I would say fortunately that's true. I certainly wish I was working and had that problem, but I am not drinking a lovely Bookcliff wine from their winery. So, guys, I'll just tout Bookcliff Winery. They are sponsoring me this season, but I'm drinking a lovely seltzer, not a lovely Chardonnay. But I do have a very festive Halloween goblet here that during the course of this interview, Billie will see, Dame Billie will see why this is a Halloween glass, but I'm drinking seltzer. What are you drinking, Billie?
Water.
Oh, okay. Well, let's do a little, I don't think you're really supposed to do a cheers or a little, celebration on water, but we're going to do it anyway. Thank you so much. A little cha-ching, ching. Yay! I'm going to take a sip. All right, it ain't wine, but it sure hits the palate. I'm drinking a little Waterloo Black Cherry Limeade. So how are you? Are you good? How are rehearsals going?
Rehearsals are going much, much better than I had expected. It's a difficult musical to be directing.
And what is it?
It's called The Miracle on 34th Street. Well, I'm doing it at Town Hall Arts Center. It was originally done on Broadway a long time ago, and it was called Here's Love. And they changed it back to, because it's based on the movie, Miracle on 34th Street. It takes place at Christmas, and it's in many ways, it's a fairy tale. But it's written in such a way that it's a little difficult for us to put it together. The choreographer, our musical director, and myself. But it's actually coming along quite nicely. So
Great. And when does, we'll get back to this at the end, but you're doing it at Town Hall. Is this the one in Littleton?
Littleton, yes.
Okay. And at the end, we'll tell everybody how they can get tickets and when it opens and when it closes. So we'll come back around to that. Okay.
Oh.
But that's one of my favorite theaters. I love the shows that they did. They did Jersey Boys just recently. I went and saw The Prom. And I believe, have you already done Night Mother? Isn't that where you're doing Night Mother later?
I'm doing Night Mother there. Yes, we start rehearsals February 2nd, and we open the end of the final weekend of February and into March.
See what I mean? You never stop. I'm not a liar. I'm telling you, people, she works constantly. And you're doing it with, I believe, the wife of the managing director. Is that correct? I don't know her name, though. What is her name?
Megan Vandehay.
Okay, spell her last name for me. I'm going to need to get her on here. Maybe I'll get her on next season.
Vandee, Hey, Hey.
And is that her husband's last name too, or is that her union name?
That's her real name.
Okay.
She didn't take her husband's name.
And what is his name as the managing director? I know Matthew Ryan. What is her husband's name, the managing director?
It's Robert Sanders. Yes. It's so ridiculous. I know him so well, but
okay, Robert, there you have it. No, I'm kidding. Well, I was going to look it up. You know, I try not to do that. I try not to bring things up and trick people. It wasn't a trick. But anyway, Robert Sanders and Matthew Ryan, I've met them. They were both, when I first got into town, I just wanted to meet people, see as many shows, and they're just both lovely. And I'll come see you in Night Mother because that's such a laugh riot of a show. Yeah, you'll be great. And I look forward to seeing her. I've not seen her on stage yet, but I look forward to seeing that one as well. But anyway, so let's go to the fun part. All right, let's talk about, I always do these pre-chats, and I want to start with your time. You're a seasoned actress, is what I like to say, right? As we start aging in the theater, you have such a fascinating background. I want to talk about your time in New York when you first arrived. I think you were there in the 1960s, the late 1960s, correct?
1969 through 1989.
Okay, fascinating time period. Would you please tell everybody a little bit of the story you told me about when you got there, where you lived? And then we'll talk about your time there, how you got the room. I think you were, and then with the room you had and who you met. So tell everybody a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
Well, I was very lucky that I met an actress who lived in New York and was very successful. And I was living in the Midwest. And she had told me anytime I wanted to come to New York to call her up and tell her I was on my way. So I did. May have been a surprise to her, but she took me in for a little while, and due to the fact she was doing a soap opera and had lots and lots of credits, I ended up starting to meet many people. And I was looking for a place to live. I didn't have much money. And so she got me an interview with a place called the Rehearsal Club. And the Rehearsal Club was a place for young actresses who just had gotten to the city and needed a place to live. It was ideal because it was on 53rd Street between 5th Avenue and 6th Avenue.
What a location.
Amazing location. And there were 42 girls there. And when I went, I went in for an interview with our house mother. And she said, well, we have a long waiting list. What can you offer us? And I said, well, I'm a pianist. And I accompany a lot of people, and I would be more than willing, because they had a piano in the basement. And I said I would be more than willing to play for auditions or play just for them to work on a song in the basement. And so she said, absolutely, that'd be great. We'll let everybody know when are you ready to move in. And they put a small bed in a room that was much bigger, one of the bigger rooms. And then I was moved into something a little later on. But we didn't, when we first got to the city, we didn't have much. And it was great. You would hear the door of the place open up and somebody would yell, they're seeing people at the Morosco, our age. And you'd hear all these sounds of, pictures of resumes getting, and also down the stairs and racing over to the Morosco to see if we could be seen. And it was a lovely place where Carol Burnett started, and Sandy Duncan and Blythe Danner and so many other really amazing people started there. And I had always idolized Carol Burnett, like idolized in a incredible way. Right. And I had come home one day from auditions, and I had to get ready for work. And I walked in the front door, and I heard all the girls were sitting in the living room, and I heard this voice that sounded very familiar. And someone whispered to me, "It's Carol Burnett. She's come back here because Life magazine is doing a story on her, and she wanted to start here with her story." And so I walked in and I sat down. When I got clammy and cold, I started to panic. She might turn around and look at me, and then I didn't know what I would do. So I got up, I crept out of the room, and I went downstairs, went to my room, and I was working as a hat check girl at the old Copacabana, the one where the mafia was a part of. And I was a cigarette girl there, and I put on my little uniform, and I went down because they fed us 2 meals a day. And I went down for dinner, and my friends came downstairs and said, "You cannot let this go by. You will hate yourself if you don't meet her and say hello." And I said, I can't, it'd kill me. So they grabbed me up and they pushed me up the back stairway. And as I reached the very top of it, there she was standing right there. And she went, "Oh, hello." And I went, she said, "I'm Carol. What's your name?" And I went, and I don't think I ever actually got my proper name out. Somebody else told them what my name was. Well, she then began to talk to me about my uniform and how she'd been a hat check girl. And she gave me little tips on things that she would do, which weren't really very nice things in a way, but it didn't harm anyone. I mean, she told me that, the little tags on the back of coats. Yeah. She would break that off, and then she would sew it back up with different colored thread. So when the people came up, she'd say, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't have the right color thread, but this broke. And I just wanted to make sure I repaired it for you," and got the best tips all the time. So I never tried that.
That's so funny. So the rehearsal club, you play piano, they got you in and you were on a cot. And then at the Cabana Club, you were a cigarette girl. I mean, these are like things that we read about, that we see in movies, but not, you lived it. And then the mafia at the Cabana Club, and then you were sewing little tags in so that you could get good tips, and you were fed 2 meals a day at the Cabana Club. Those times don't exist anymore. What were you going to say? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. That we were fed 2 meals a day at the rehearsal club.
At the rehearsal club.
At the rehearsal club. That was part of our. We paid $40 a week for a room and 2 meals a day, breakfast and dinner, and the food was quite good. And there was even somebody who would keep everything clean except our rooms. But yes.
So 40 a week. So that's 160 a month.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm not a mathematician, but even I can figure that out. So 2 meals a day. And that, we're looking back, at 1969. Now, now we know Carol Burnett did Once Upon a Mattress, which they're also doing right now at Arvada Center. I don't know if it's opened yet or not. And I think they're doing it on Broadway too right now. But had she started her variety show yet? Or how did you know of her?
She had, she'd been on the Gary Moore show. Okay. And that was a show that we'd always sit around in the family room and watch that one. And I don't know if there was the Disney thing, but that was a big Sunday night thing to watch Carol Burnett on the Gary Moore show. And that's where she was discovered. And I think she did Mattress before then she got picked up for television and just soared. Big celebrities.
So Mattress first, then Gary Moore, and then they gave her own variety show. And then we know I was a little kid we would watch her, and that was Saturday nights, and that show ran for a very long time, throughout the 70s. And boy, was that just a great show. So that's how you just really liked her from TV. And I guess, did you see her in Mattress, or did you just know her from TV?
I wasn't there when she was there. She's quite a bit older than I am.
Okay.
But I will tell you one lovely story about Carol Burnett that she told me, was that you remember standing in long lines where they would line you all up on the front of a stage, and then they would go down the line and they would
It was being called typed out, and they wouldn't even let you sing your 16 bars if you didn't look like the type. Boom, 1, 2, 6, 7, 10, you can leave. Everybody else stay. Yeah.
And that was very much what was happening in the city then. And there were about 6 or 7 girls that got together who were about the same size, and they bought a red dress, bright, beautiful red dress. When anybody had an important audition, they would wear that dress. And automatically they would, as they looked down the line, their eyes would go straight to the red, and they would say, stay. So she always said it was one of those kind of clever things that it dawned on them that would bring the eye. If you know New Yorkers, everybody wears black and gray.
Well, I'm wearing black right now. Were you wearing black earlier? No, but you had on a beautiful red top. You're wearing red right now. It's beautiful. I'm wearing black. So, who knew? Maybe that's what I need to start doing around here since I can't get cast. I'll start wearing red to auditions. Yeah. It's all good. But I think red, that's awesome. Your eye just goes right down the line to red. That is such a smart idea. And that they shared the dress. What a sweet thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. So how was the food at the rehearsal club? Was it good?
It was very good. Actually, it was very good. And so you never had to worry about food. You never had to worry about where you were going to sleep. There was always someone there. The door was kept locked at night. And I made lifelong friends.
Wow, how wonderful. And then, so it was all women. I know some people used to live in like the YWCA. They would get a room at the YWCA, or I heard stories about that, in the 70s. When I was in high school, I started high school in the 70s. And so you would hear people that they would get a room there. And then by the time it was my turn to go to New York, that was, rent control was the only thing that was good for us. You didn't get to stay at the YMCA or the YWCA. But what a time to live in the city and to be able to pay that, be at 53rd between 5th and 6th. Geez Louise, what a lovely thing. And I guess it wasn't co-ed, so you felt safe. And could men even come in and out of there, or no?
Oh, sure. They could come and sit in the living room and talk. But mostly they would just come and pick us up and then bring us home. But you always knew. And it was being on 5th Avenue, being on 53rd Street, in between those two very prestigious streets.
Yes.
Gave it an element of
prestige. You're up there almost, you're Midtown, you're going towards the Upper East Side. That's very posh area, and, getting up over in that area. So you also, the Life magazine, I think you sent me a copy of the cover of that, or I have it. Were you equity when you were there in New York, or did you get your equity card later, or what?
I got my equity card about 3 years after I was there.
Okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, and it was, and I no sooner had it when I booked my first job.
Wow. And do you remember what it cost to get your equity card back then?
Oh gosh. Nothing compared to what they're charging now. I actually can't remember, but I know it was maybe $300 or something like that.
Mine was in my Screen Actors Guild, I think it was like 2,000 or something to join. And equity, you had to have points, and then they came up with the eligibility card. And then you could just buy your way in. But you had to get it, you had to work as an intern, or you had to be in a place where they would hire you, and they could hire you for like a pittance of anything and get an internship. So there are different ways to get it. But I do know a lot of people around here have given up their cards in this area of town, in Denver area, or really in the state of Colorado, in order to work. But I can't really see getting rid of it. I want to keep it. I work too hard for it. So what brought you to Colorado the first time? You came and then you left and then you came back to stay.
Oh, well, I actually just came here once on tour.
And what tour was that?
And I was touring with the national tour of the Neil Simon's The Gingerbread Lady.
And I believe you have an interesting story as to how you got that job. Can you tell us about that job?
Yes, I just gotten my card, and they were holding open union interviews at I think it was the Booth Theater. And I went in, I got in line. You always had to get up at like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning to get down there to get your name on a list. And then you could go home and fix yourself up and then get ready and go back down. So that's what I had done. And I actually got into the interview. And it was the director of the show that was coming up and the stage manager. And usually the director's not there.
Right.
Usually the PSM is not there. It's usually somebody else. But he, they interviewed me, he kept watching me. And finally he said, do you know the Gingerbread Lady? And I said, I've heard of it, and I know it just closed, and I think it's out of town now, or just left for the tour. And he said, yes. And he said, and he took a script out of his satchel and he handed it to me. And he said, would you look at this scene and look at this scene? One is a 17-year-old and one is a 40-year-old. And go downstairs and look at those scenes, and then I'll come down and I want to read you for them. And I'm kind of like, really? And so I went downstairs. Well, it turns out that because I looked 17 at the time, but I sounded 40.
Have you always had this voice? Have you always had a low voice like I do?
Yeah, pretty much so.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And he said to me after I read the scenes, and he gave me a little direction, and I read a little bit more. He said to me, so can you be in LA? We want to fly you to LA as soon as possible, a couple of days. And I thought, oh, okay. I had just moved into an actual apartment. I had left the rehearsal club and moved into an apartment. So I literally 2 days later, I was at the Huntington Hartford in LA. I had just read the script. I started to learn it. And we played there for 2 weeks, and I think I had 2 rehearsals with the rest of the understudies. And then we flew to Denver.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. It's, everybody that I've interviewed this season, it seems to be, it's all really, it's not luck, it's connections. Happen to be the right place at the right time, but you have to be the right type. You have to be the right type of person. And it's just about connections. It's about who you know and who you meet and all of that. So you saw this, was it Jerry Schoenfeld? Was that who it was?
It was Jerry, but I don't really remember. It was so long ago. Lucky that I remember my name.
No, I know they do. It does start to kind of go after a while, but no.
I knew it was Jerry Morse.
Oh, Morse. Why did I write Schoenfeld? I don't know why I did that. Maybe that was for another person. But so that is fabulous. So you came to Denver to do Gingerbread Girl, and that is that Neil Simon?
Gingerbread Lady. Yeah, it's
Gingerbread Lady.
It's about an old film star singer and whose friends who come in and her daughter. I played her best friend and her daughter.
Wow, that is awesome.
Yeah.
So you came here. Can you describe what the theater scene was back then? And that was in the 1970s, right? I believe it was like 1970.
I think it was like 1973.
73, 74. Can you describe what, because now when you drive down 3625 and you see that whole arts center down there, the Denver Center for the Performing Arts, and you see all the different theaters that are in the hub, all that area down there, and all the different theaters that are here now, and the beautiful Arvada, Center for the Performing Arts, the new one. Tell us what the theater scene was back then.
Oh gosh, there was very little. There was some good stuff going on. All non-union, except for they had one theater downtown where that big complex is. And it was called the Auditorium Theater. And it was quite large, but there was nothing else around it other than little restaurants and the 16th Street now looks like is very elegant and it's closed off. You could see the tumbleweed rolling down 16th Street, because they were in, it's called a boom and bust state, and they were definitely in a bust place, but they were starting to move into a boom. Everything around that theater was closing because they were tearing it all down to build the complex that is there now. So the auditorium theater is still there, but it was redone and renovated, and it's now called the Ellie Calkins, and it's where a lot of ballet and opera is done.
Oh yeah, I think I saw the Nutcracker with the Denver Ballet there. I think, yeah, beautiful, beautiful theater there. It's huge, just huge. So yeah, let's see. All of a sudden, a folder just popped up on my screen there. I don't know why it did that. So rather sparse, right? Tumbleweed, great, very, very, very sparse. But you obviously liked it. Yes, you liked the area. You liked the people, or.
It was no. I actually, what I always
no, I didn't.
No, I. It was just the second place on the tour. The first time I went on, it was closing night, sold out house, and all the understudies. We were all packed and ready to go because we were going to fly out the next day, and we were all sitting in the back row, and the show went up, and the gal that I was understudying, the 17-year-old, came on stage. She walked out. And all of a sudden, she said like 5 lines and then doubled over and ran off stage. Well, I thought, oh my God, I wonder what they're going to do. And I felt a hand hit my shoulder. And I got up and they took me back. They hadn't even had time to costume me yet. So I went on in my street clothes. And I asked, my hair was really long. And so I asked for a ribbon to tie my hair back. And I'd only had 2 rehearsals, and it was a major role. But I went on. But you know, you're in your 20s, and the mind is amazing at that time. And I went out there and I did the whole thing. And at the very end of it, we all took our curtain call, and we all came running off. But they grabbed me. The stage manager grabbed me and he said, no, wait here. And the star was out there giving her big bow and everything. Then she motioned to the wings, and my friend, the stage manager, pushed me on stage. And as I ran on stage, the entire audience stood up.
Oh, they love rooting for an understudy, don't they? So you got to feel that. I bet it was electrifying.
Well, it was, all I wanted to do was go have a 25-cent Coors beer. I love the acting part of it, and I love that, the challenge and everything. But I really did that. All that hoopla stuff drives me crazy. It was wonderful for her to do that, and I that was the only time I played that role. I played the other one in D.C., in Washington, D.C., where we were at the National, and it was again the very same thing. We were sitting around playing cards, all the understudies. And I hear a message, the call is 15, ladies and gentlemen, 15. And at this performance, and we all dropped cards and looked around at each other, the role of will be played by Billie McBride. And I stood up and I started to shake a little bit because but I that one went fine too. So
oh my gosh, yeah, I know. I've talked about understudies quite a bit on this show because we talk about embracing the process. And I tell you what, I was a swing, at some of these amusement parks and the musicals and things, and I did it when I was younger. But I'm like, oh hell no, you couldn't pay me. There's not enough money to be an understudy now. The thought of it, like a Broadway show understudy, where you do like a couple of roles. I'm like, no way, never. I'm never doing it again. Give that to somebody else. So you came back. When did you move here for good? When did you come back to this area? When did they get lucky to have Dame Billie McBride arrive?
Well, I had moved. I left New York after 20 years, and I moved to New Hampshire for 3 years.
Oh, okay.
And I lived there, and I did some really great theater. I worked in there were theaters in Vermont. The lovely thing about New Hampshire is there's New Hampshire in the middle of Massachusetts and Vermont, and I could drive to both of them and do do shows, and I did directing and I did stuff, but you couldn't earn a living doing much of anything there. And after a while, after having lived in New York City, New Hampshire I just wasn't old enough to enjoy how beautiful everything was there.
Right.
So I was in a little bit of a bad place, and friends called me and we were talking, and I said, I just don't know how to pull myself out of this. And they said, well, why don't you come to Colorado with us? We're going on a vacation and you could look around. Maybe you want to live there. I mean, jokingly. So I got a really cheap ticket and I flew there with them, and we both rented cars. They went on up to the mountains, and I proceeded to drive around and look for a place to live. And I found an apartment in Boulder, and I signed all the contracts and everything. Then I went up to join them in the mountains, and then went back to New Hampshire and packed everything up and moved here. And it still was, what was going on the most here was television and film.
Okay.
And so I got lucky to get a really good agent who remained my agent for years and years and years. And but all she did was film and television. So because I was a member of SAG and Screen Actors Guild when they were separate.
Right. The SAG-AFTRA, you mean?
To be separate. And so I got a lot of that work, and I thought this is really great. But every time I went to there were only a couple of union theaters at the time. One was Arvada, and one was the Deborah Center.
Right.
The Deborah Center, I was told, literally, that we don't care that you just moved here from New York. We don't care that you just did a Broadway show. We don't care about any of that stuff. If you're not living in New York right now, we're not interested in hiring you. And it was, they had a great company of actors, and it really was a company of actors that they did plays around. Then they would bring certain people in from New York. So that was kind of out. Then I went to Arvada, and I kept auditioning there. And finally I thought, I'm going to move back to New York. It's going to be a little harder because I'm going to have to find a place to live. And I'd had a great cheap apartment. And a friend talked me into going for one last audition at the Arvada Center. And I booked it.
Wow. What show was that? What show was it?
Moon Over Buffalo.
Oh my goodness. What a great show for you.
Yeah. And it was playing Charlotte, and it was just I love that. Love that.
Well, that's a Carol Burnett role right there.
Yep. And it was after that, we got rave reviews. They were starting to pack the place, which they had not been doing for a while. And after that, then I started getting asked to come to auditions for things. And I was booking a little more and a little more. Then I got to know actors in town and directors in town. And I because I direct, I go see as much as I can, because I want to know what the talent's like.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I would go see theater. If I liked an actor, I would go backstage and I would say, would you, can I have your picture? Could I have your phone number and everything, because I want to be able to get in touch with you. And people would do that. And more times than not, I would move to that. I remember one actress, her name's Karen Slack. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've seen Karen's work, but I met her when she was very, very young, but she was such a good actress. And I actually, maybe 2 or 3 months after I saw her in something, called her up and hired her to do something for me.
Yeah, when I moved here, I just thought, we're not going to move back. I came back from Richmond, Virginia, and I was really working a ton there, but I knew that I needed to meet my new theater peeps. So I just thought, I'm just going to go see as much as I possibly can. And like I said, you were in the first show that I ever saw. Actually, that's a lie. Last fall, I saw like Cold Country. I tried to see as much Boulder theater as I could. And then I started venturing out more. And then I started seeing a lot of stuff out of town, like Creed, Rep, and Thunder River or Thunder Rock. But before you left New York, I'm going to go back just a second because I skipped something that I didn't want to miss. You were in Torch Song Trilogy. You know Harvey Fierstein pretty well, right?
Mm-hmm.
What did you do with that? And you told me a story about you guys were holding hands backstage one time. Tell people that about Torch Song and holding hands backstage with Harvey.
Well, When I first got offered Torch Song, it was to be the second stage manager. There was a production stage manager, and then then me. And I didn't. That's not what I wanted to do, but I needed the money, and it was Broadway, and so what the heck. I went to. I began that work, but as the stage manager, quite often I would have to step in at understudy rehearsals and play this one character, which I was absolutely perfectly right for. And the producers would come off and on to watch the understudies work with maybe somebody new who was coming into the show. And when Diane Tarleton, who was playing that role and had played it ever since Harvey wrote it, she got wanted to go on vacation. And the producer said, we could put the understudy on for that, but we'd really prefer if you put Billie on. So could you get someone to replace her for 2 weeks while she goes on? And I knew it so well, and so I got a chance to do that. Then I went back to being Cinderella around the
hearth,
and then Diane got pregnant, and so they offered it to me, and I played it for the rest of the time until about, I think, a month before the show was going to close, and then Diane came back to finish it out, which was only natural. And I will say about Harvey Fierstein, he's probably one of the nicest men alive, and I don't know if I told you this, but during Torch Song, I was just angry one night. I was really angry about something, and he came upstairs and he said something to me, fun, which I would have normally laughed at, but I took in the wrong way, and we stood backstage yelling at each other. I mean, and the stage manager, everybody was trying to quiet us down. Fortunately, it was a packed house, so they were all talking and no one could hear us. And finally, and I said to him, at least you, all I see is you phoning it in every night. Your performance.
You said that to him?
Yeah. And then they broke us apart. The show was going to start. I went back downstairs and thought, oh my God. The next day I walked in there, and the stage manager said, Harvey wants to see you in his dressing room. And I thought, well, he's going to hand me my notice in person.
Here's your pink slip, Bobby. You're not Dame Billie here. You're not Dame Billie here. You get your ass out of the theater.
Yeah, well, I opened the door and walked in, and he said, I started to say, I'm sorry. But before I could, he said, that did me the world of good. You actually opened my eyes. And he said, I really was phoning it in. And it made me think that last night as I was doing the performance. So anytime you see that happening, I want you down here telling me. And I walked out there thinking, you can't ask for a nicer guy.
Wow. Did you apologize and say, but I am sorry? I was coming down to say, I'm really sorry. I shouldn't have said that. Or did you just go, yeah, you're right. You were phoning it in.
I didn't say anything. I just let him talk. And then he said, now go to work. That was
good invitation. Now go to work. There you go. See you out there. Yeah, that voice. He's lost so much weight. He doesn't even look like himself anymore,
I know. He's lost a ton, and he's so into quilting now. And he is doing some of the most phenomenal quilts.
He really is. They're absolutely stunning. I'll have to put a link on when I do your podcast on my Facebook page for the podcast. I'll have to do that. Now, I want to move on just a little bit more. I want to do some of these rapid fire questions, but you did mention something about being a cancer survivor. So you continue to work, but if you don't mind telling us a little bit about that, did you continue to work when you were diagnosed with cancer?
No, I the first one was breast cancer, and unfortunately they caught it in time so that it was a matter of a lumpectomy and 25 doses of the radiation, which will really knocks the Jesus out of you.
Yeah.
And but I had been offered Rosemary and Picnic at Arvada, and I had agreed to do it before the diagnosis. So I was doing radiation as we were rehearsing, And I could only, because they'd taken all these lymph nodes out from underneath my arm,
Oof.
I could barely move my arm up. But I didn't tell anybody. I didn't want anyone to know I'd been sick, that this had happened to me. So I just went all through all the rehearsals with that. And then just got a little better and got a little better as time went on. But yeah. And then I had, I was understudying wit at the Denver Center, the Denver Center. And I got diagnosed with colorectal cancer. And I was 1 week short of equity insurance. So I was panicked because I thought, what am I going to do? Because this is chemo and radiation. This is the whole thing.
This is the big shebang. Yeah.
And so I contacted the guy who had directed Wit, and I said to him, I'm short 1 week. Is there anything in Uncle Vanya that I could understudy? And he said, as a matter of fact, there is. So why don't you just count on that? And so I talked to him a few, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 months ago. And I said to him, you have no idea, you saved my life. And he just said, oh, good.
Oh, who was that? What was his name?
It was, oh God, now you're hitting me with names.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I did it again, didn't I? I'm so sorry.
I can memorize a 62-page monologue.
But don't ask about names. I'm sorry. It was the person, was it a director at DCPA or was it a?
Yeah, it was a fellow who directed at DCPA. He now runs Stories on Stage.
Okay.
He's also, they've moved him in and he's back at the DCPA for directing Christmas Carol now. This will be.
Okay. All right. Okay, cool. Well, I'll look that up. It's not that I'll look at it. We'll come back in just a minute to that. All right, let's do some rapid fire questions. You're amazing that you did that. I love that you didn't tell anybody, that you just went, no, I'm just going to do this. A lot of people wouldn't have done that. They'd have been like, nah, I can't do it. I'm just going to stay home. And it's kind of interesting because it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So, go get those mammograms, I guess, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, you are fascinating. You're more fascinating. I knew when I saw you, you were really good, but you're more fascinating than I even knew. Dame Billie McBride. All right. So do you want rapid fire questions for the actor in you or the director in you?
Well, combine them.
Okay. All right. Let's go. All right. Let's see. Acting. I'll go for acting first. Yes or no? Do you have an acting degree?
Yes, BFA.
From where?
Illinois Wesleyan University.
Fabulous. Do you think an acting degree is necessary?
No.
Okay, we'll just leave it there. Favorite thing to eat before a show, Dame Billie?
I don't have a favorite thing.
Do you eat before a show?
Yeah, quite often.
Good. Do you eat after a show?
No.
Do you have a pre-show ritual?
I didn't. Well, yes, I did. I have things I would do in the dressing room, things I would set up in the dressing room. But yes.
Like what?
Well, everything that I would put on, all my makeup, everything had to be at a special place. Now I have a special technique that I was given because all of a sudden I've become a little nervous. I've never been afraid of going on stage, but all of a sudden I got a little nervous doing that one-woman show, The Year of Magical Thinking.
Oh, we didn't mention that one. Okay, great. All right.
But somebody gave me a technique to calm myself down, and it works every time. So even though I don't feel the nerves that much, I do my little technique.
Do you want to share it or no?
No, it would take too long to share.
Okay, all right, that's fine. Would you do your little ritual to do that? How do you wind down post-show, or do you?
Usually it'll be, if I don't go out with the cast and have a drink or something, a glass of wine, then I'll come home maybe and have a glass of wine and then just go to bed.
Good for you. Have you ever experienced post-show blues?
No, I don't think so.
Good. Okay. What's your favorite memory for being in the industry?
Getting to work with Angela Lansbury.
Wow. When did you work with Angela Lansbury?
Well, I got right after she closed in Gypsy. She was going back out on tour for, I don't know, 4 months or so. And they had lost one actress. And I happened to know the husband. I'd gone to college with the husband of the choreographer. And we were all sitting at Charlie's one night in New York having a drink. And she was talking about the fact that they were going to have to hold auditions for this to replace this gal. And so her husband said, Billie could do that. I mean, she'd be perfect for it. So she said to me, do you sing? I said, yeah. And she said, well, does she dance? And her husband said, well, of course she does. And I'm thinking, okay.
Did you dance or do you not dance?
Well, I had some dance training, and I was taking dance at the time, but I didn't consider myself a dancer. Right. But I just sat there and let him talk me up. And so she called me up and she said, come and audition for us. And I went in and I sang for them, and then they had me read for them. And then, but they said, do you want to see her dance? And Bonnie said, no, she could dance fine. There's no problem to that. And so I'm thinking, oh my God. Well, then they did a call back and I had to sing for them again. And then I got the call saying I'd gotten it. And it was to play, the dancing part was to play the front end of the dancing cow.
Moo cow, the moo cow, the moo cow, right.
And they took me in to teach me the number, and I worked so hard on it to get it all right, because you're under a giant cow head.
Oh, yeah.
Cow pants, and you got a guy behind you and that you do things in opposition, bell kicks and everything. I'd go to the right, he'd go to the left. I mean, all of that stuff had to be learned. Eventually it just became the norm. And so then, and we always called it going to camp with Angie, because we went 4 years in a row. We'd get a call saying she wants to go, she's going to go out and we're going to do into Canada and all around certain areas. And then, no, we're going back to Florida this time, and we're going to play that theater again, and then go on and move into other play. And so it was just great. And she's probably what was one of the most wonderful humans alive. She remained a very close friend until she passed.
Oh my gosh, what an icon. Yeah, moo. What a wonderful thing. I didn't even know that in the pre-child that you work with. Look at all this. See, I told you, I knew when I saw you. What a history. Do you have a favorite actor or actress?
I would probably say Maggie Smith would be probably one of my favorite actresses. And favorite male actors, there's a few, but I don't. But it's probably an English actor.
Yeah, probably. The Method, yes or no?
No.
No. Have you ever had to kiss someone on stage who had bad breath?
No.
Most embarrassing moment on stage?
Well, not for me. Well, it was for me. It was for all of us. I was doing summer stock, and we were doing Barefoot in the Park, and I was playing Corey. And the actor playing my husband was carrying the mother in and put her down on the sofa, and the back two legs of the sofa broke, and the whole sofa went over, and all you saw were her two little legs sticking up in the air. Well, I became absolutely crippled. It was impossible for me to go on. I could not say a word. I finally had to walk off stage, but everybody else was the same way, except for the woman playing the mother, who came crawling out from behind the curtain. The audience said it was probably one of the most fun times, but I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I lost all ability to be a professional.
Yeah, it's like a church laugh. You just, the more you laugh, the more you try to stifle it, the harder it gets. Your face starts to hurt. You feel like you're going to pee. You just cannot. You're like, I cannot. And it feels so good to try to stifle it and continue to laugh. Do you have a least favorite role?
Least favorite role. I'm the luckiest woman alive. I have played so many glorious parts. I don't really have one. That I thought, oh, thank God this is over.
Do you have a favorite role?
Hmm. I would say we have a wonderful playwright in Colorado. Her name is Melissa McCarl.
She is quite good, and we'll want to talk about that in just a second too. I saw you in a show with another lady who won the Henry Award. We're talking about that in just a second.
And she wrote a play. I had met her, and she choreographed something that I directed young kids in, and we knew each other. And the man, Steve Wilson, who I'm sure you know about, was running the theater at the JCC. There was an adult theater there at the time, and he asked Melissa to write a play that would be good for, because it's the Jewish Community Center that would have some of those elements in it. And she wrote a play called Poignant Irritations, which was a Gertrude Stein phrase. And it was Gertrude Stein and Alice Toklas doing, and it was written in the way that Gertrude wrote plays, interchangeable scenes. And I have to tell you, I fell in love with that play. I played Gertrude in Act One, and Erica played Alice in Act One, and then I played Alice in Act Two, and Erica played Gertrude. And then
it wasn't an every night like True West. It wasn't like switching back and forth every other night. It was an act switch, and you would change it intermission.
We literally changed it intermission to costume. The whole thing was totally different. And we came out, and I came out as Alice, and she came out as Gertrude.
Fascinating. I've never seen it done mid-show. I've seen it done like alternating and wrap one night, one actor, one night the other, in True West, that kind of thing. But I've never, and also that other one, the Frankenstein one, where they do, the doctor and then the Frankenstein.
Oh, yes. This was written to be that way. And I of all the things I've done some really amazing shows. That one always remains the one that pops into my mind, that I would truly I wish I had gotten to do it a second time.
Wow, maybe you will. I tell you what, Melissa McCarl loves you. She wrote another show for you. You are like Maggie Smith. Peter Schaefer wrote Linus and Lovitch for her. He wrote another show, but Melissa McCarl wrote the other one that I saw that you were in this past spring, that the woman that you were in the show with won the Henry Award, and you said you were very happy that she won it, and for Best Actress in a Play. Tell us the name of that real quick, and the other name of the actress. Anne, I think is her name.
It's Anne Oberbrockling, and Annie and I've worked together 3 times, and she's really an unsung actress in town, and she's very good, and the two of us have a great chemistry together. We did a show for Betsy, which was Ripcord, a fabulous play.
Oh, it's a great show.
Melissa saw Ripcord and said, I got to write a play for Anne and Billy. So she wrote Heartbeat of the Sun. Yeah. And I genuinely, when we were both nominated for Best Actress or whatever, and I remember saying to Melissa, I don't want this. I want it to go to Anne. And Anne was hoping that it would go to both of us, that we would tie. But I said, no, she'd never won one. I don't know that she'd ever been nominated for one. So when they named her, and I was sitting right there in the audience when they named her, those of us who were in the show just screamed, and then the rest of the audience did, because she was really wonderful. And I told her that. I felt that I needed her strength. That strength of character that she brought to that character gave me my strength. So
you were both really, really wonderful. And I tell you what, Melissa McCarl, she sure pops them out. You guys have some amazing playwrights here in town, I have to say. The new works, like I interviewed Amanda. Yeah, from the Catamounts. And boy, I mean, just new works constantly. Jeffrey Newman and Melissa McCarl and Josh Hartwell. And there's so many new plays that are being done. Yep. So it's fascinating. So then last question then, other than this podcast, what's been the highlight of your career?
Oh, gosh. walking on stage, Broadway stage for the very first time.
I would say that's probably pretty good. Yeah, that's a pretty good highlight. Is
Yeah.
there anything that you haven't done that you would keep on a bucket list in the theater that you would like to do? Like a review in that, well, you've probably been reviewed in the Times, or is there something that you haven't done that you would like to still? We should all have goals throughout our entire life. Is there anything that you haven't done that you would like to, if anybody's listening, you want to lead into movies or something that you haven't done that you would like to do?
I would be interested in doing a little more film, but somebody once said to me, when there were not that many equity theaters, and somebody wanted to hire me at one of the non-union theaters. And they said, and I said, I'm a union. And they said, well, don't you just want to drop it? Aren't there things you really want to do? And I said, pretty much done them all. But then the smaller venues began to find ways to get equity contracts. So I never lost a job or a role because I was union. Not going to give my union stuff.
Yeah, I mean, everybody around here has said, "Oh, you really probably should give it up." And I'm like, I work too hard for it. I don't really see myself giving it up. I just can't. If that means just not getting the work, it means just not getting the work. I can't do it. But yeah, I mean, I think I don't think it's luck. I think that, I think you have something to offer and you bring something to it. So I think that you're just extremely talented. And I think when you have it, Dr. Rick St. Peter was on last week, and he was talking about, Richard Eyre from the National Theatre of Great Britain talks about people have that thing, they become iridescent on stage. And I think you do. I think you have an iridescence about you, that you just notice that you have this thing. You have, like the man, said, I want you to come downstairs and read for Gingerbread Lady. I just need you to come read for this. You just have something about you. And I noticed it when you were here. And that happened quite a few years ago, that other story, late 1960s, early 70s. And I do think that you still have that thing, whatever it is. So, well, I hope you get to do some more film work. I'm not sure about the Screen Actors Guild and, how that works here. We were a right to work state in Virginia, so it didn't matter, if you were a Screen Actors Guild, you still could get a lot of work there. Virginia was a great state because we had all 4 seasons. We had all of the historical landmarks. We had DC. We also had, we had the ocean. We had the mountains. Really great place. So the Virginia Film Commission really brought in a ton of work there for the actors. We had a pretty good deal. So I got to do a lot of film there, and it was wonderful. Have you chosen your lovely wine that you would like to get from Book Cliff? Do you know which one it is?
Yes, what's really interesting to me is the Tectonic Red.
Oh, good choice. I drank that one night. Now, I didn't drink the full bottle like I did when when I was doing the rosé. I drank the rosé when I was interviewing Rick St. Peter, Dr. Rick St. Peter. I drank the entire thing. It took me 5 days to edit that because it was like a truth serum. The more I drank, the funnier it got. But so the Tectonic Red is really lovely, and you can buy that online at www.bookcliffvineyards.com, or if you're local, I highly recommend going into their tasting room down here in Boulder on Lee Hill Road. They're open on Thursday, Fridays, Saturdays from 4 to 6. Their wines are sold in really all of the liquor stores, or in really any of the King Soopers or any of the other stores here in town. In the restaurants too, you can pick up, you can get one of their wines off the menu. If you don't live locally, you can go online and they can be shipped to you as well. But I will show you that I'm sorry that I didn't get to drink one of their wines during our lovely interview, but at 1 o'clock in the afternoon during the week, I can't do that. But I will show you for Halloween. Look what's in my.
Oh, that's adorable.
Isn't it cute? It's a little wine glass. Remember I said it would be my little boo ghost? It would be something revealed. So I drank my water, and it's a little ghost.
Oh, that's so cute.
Nobody can see it, but I'll take a little picture and put it on my Facebook page. And, if you enjoyed this interview, please share it with your friends, and it'll be posted before we leave, here, this interview. I want to talk about your next show that will be going up at Town Hall, one of my favorite venues in Littleton, Colorado. Tell people where it's going to be, and then I'll ask you your very, very, very final question. Where's the show, where it's going to be, and then the dates and where they can buy tickets.
It is Littleton Town Hall. It's actually called the Town Hall Arts Center. And we open on November 22nd. It's the Miracle on 34th Street. And it runs through December 29th. Performances are almost always Thursday through Sunday, although we are doing an industry night for the Denver Actors Fund, and you will be on a Monday. I'm not sure which Monday they're doing that. And you just call the box office, or you can go online to Town Hall Arts Center and get and book the shows online. So it's been there forever and ever, that theater, and they've had their ups and they've had their downs, but ever since Robert Michael Sanders is
there it is.
Robert Michael Sanders, yes, and Matthew Kepler took it over. I'm seeing so much good stuff coming out of there.
Oh, it's a great space. Did it used to be like a courtroom or a jail or something? Didn't that building used to be something like I don't know, like a courtroom? It wasn't always a theater. It used to be something else, I think.
I have no idea, but it's been a theater for 30 years.
Yeah, it's really, I think when I went to meet with Matthew, and he was just, I think Matthew Kepler or Matthew Ryan, he goes by a different name on Facebook, but boy, what a nice guy he is. And it's a great space. And I just love what I see coming out of there. It's a fun space and they do a great job. So guys, go see Miracle on 34th Street, directed by none other than Dame Billie McBride of Denver. And the last question that I ask is, of all of my guests, if you had not made it in this lovely career in entertainment as an actor and a director, and as also a teacher, you also teach. What do you think when you were younger, and you hadn't gone to college to get your degree in theater, what do you think you might have ended up doing? Do you have an idea?
I don't think I ever had an idea of doing anything else. I think I may have told you that I got the calling at the age of 9, when I had never seen a play or seen a movie or seen, and of course, television was not there yet, and I don't know why. But from that moment on, I made that decision, and that is what I did every day. Is I worked toward it the best way that I could.
Had you seen a movie? Was it a movie in a movie theater or something?
I'd never seen a movie. I'd seen cartoons. We would go down and see cartoons. We had a little movie theater. I grew up in a tiny little town in the Midwest in Illinois, and I don't know why. My mother looked at me when I told her what I wanted to do. She said, "Oh, honey, actresses have to be very pretty and they have to be very talented." And I had buck teeth and bug eyes, and I knew myself that at that moment I was not a pretty girl. And I didn't know what talented meant, but I figured I could look it up. And I literally, then I never told anybody else, because I thought nobody's going to try to talk me out of this. So, and then my mom was so thrilled when I ended up doing that. And, but I've only had 3 months of acting class. In college, they didn't teach acting. And when I got to New York, somebody told me I should take an acting class to put it on my resume. So I took a really wonderful, a very, very great three months with a wonderful man named Albert Tavares. And I learned an enormous amount that I didn't know, but I was driven. So I would love to say that, I would have been I would have been a wife and a mother, or I would have been a teacher. No.
Well, you are a striking woman. I don't know what you looked like as a child, but you are a striking woman with that beautiful, white hair and your blue eyes, and you're striking. I don't know what you look like back then, but you're beautiful now. So I don't know.
I look like most 9-year-old girls.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I was one of those too. Yeah. But anyway, listen, I can't thank you enough for joining me today and talking about the career that you've had. And I wish you the best. And I know I'll see you in Night Mother, and I know I'll be seeing Miracle on 34th Street. But thank you for giving me some of your time. I know you got to go back and doing some of your blocking. And good luck with the show and, getting it up on its feet. And have a happy Halloween and a great Thanksgiving and a wonderful holiday season.
Oh, thanks, Dawn. And thanks for thinking of me for this. I feel very honored.
Well, you're sweet. I love you to death, and I'll see you soon.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, I think that about does it for this week's podcast. I can't thank you enough for listening. Remember, you can always find this episode and others on Facebook under ACT and any of the other podcast platforms. Or visit my website at dawnwestbrook.com, where you'll find the links from previous seasons and episodes. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends and other entertainment enthusiasts. If you have questions or suggestions, I'm as close as an email. I welcome your ideas. And remember, follow ACT on Instagram and X, formerly known as Twitter, under ActingPod. But for now, as W.C. Fields once said, a man's gotta believe in something. So, my noble artist and my happy troop of theater trolls, I do believe I shall have another drink. May the footlights burn bright and your interactions, both on stage and off, be rewarding. Thanks for joining me. I'm Dawn Westbrook, your host, and this is ACT. This season's podcasts are being brought to you by the Martha Hill Newell Playwrights Fund and Bookcliff Vineyards, where their wines are always something worth sharing.